YouTube, what's going on? Everybody good? Yeah, man. I'll make a quick video real quick. I tried to do the YouTube live a while ago, and I don't know. It didn't work out too good. Some guys were saying they couldn't hear me, and they said that it cut off or whatever. I play with it some more. I don't know. But yeah, man. Just a little update video, man. Yeah, I'm alright, man. Um, I'm back on the road, after a couple days of Christmas, and like I said, I booked a load down in Florida because I got a few family members down in Florida and had a good time down there, and took it easy and just enjoyed Christmas, I hope everybody had a good Christmas. We got New Year's in a couple days. I mean, to tell y'all the truth, man, it's been a little slow lately. Yep, it's been a little slow. But, I mean, it's alright, because, there's freight on the board, but it's not freight that I want to run. A lot of the freight that I see on the board, it goes, like, out of the area that I like to run. So, like, a lot of the loads that I see, it goes up into Ohio, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma and shit like that. I don't want to go out there. I don't mind going out there sometimes, but like New Year's is like, what's today? Thursday? Friday? Like, I won't be able to make it in time. So, like, like I'm looking at loads on the board. Like, sometimes I would run those runs, but like I would run out to Texas and back, or I would run out to Oklahoma and back, or I would run out to Arkansas and back. So it's like right now it's not a good time to run because it's like I won't get back in time for New Year's, and my girl won't like that. So, but yeah, here's the deal. Let's see. Yeah, it's the same old stuff, man. I mean, like I say, it's not dead slow, but you gotta understand, like, freight as a whole is usually slow. I mean, because I know a lot of you guys, you new to the industry and you come to my channel and like you have questions or whatever, but see, what you gotta understand, like, yeah, it's slow on the load board, but that has nothing to do with necessarily with Schneider. Like, trucking as a whole is slow. Unless you run for UPS or FedEx or something, they're busy. Because UPS and FedEx, their business model is geared towards package, parcel type freight. And like, on this side of trucking, like flatbed and dry van and reefer and stuff like that. Like, reefer might see a spike just because, reefer is kind of like a just-in-time kind of freight. So, like with reefer, a customer can't afford for a refrigerated load to sit on the lot too long. That's why a lot of those loads have to be live loaded, Unless that customer is big enough and they got a large volume, but most of the time with reefer freight, it has to be live loaded. And just like with flatbed freight. But see, with reefer freight, you dealing with stuff like, frozen food, ice cream, and shit like that. And this time of the year, that freight, I never ran reefer before, but I talked to guys who run reefer, and that type of freight picks up sometimes. It spikes or whatever. But with Schneider, we pull dry boxes, so this time of the year, like the only kind of freight you probably gonna find is probably like paper. Paper bales, rolls of paper, toilet paper, you know, that kind of stuff. But and this goes back to, you know, a lot of you guys who want to come on the board. It's like, well, the thing is, you got to learn the load board. You know, get on the board and just experiment with different areas and study that board. Like, stay on that board 24/7. I mean, you can't get on the load board when you're driving, but you know, pull over if you can, go to the bathroom. If you're at home during Christmas, I know that's hard, but it's for your own benefit. It's your own benefit to study that board so you can find them customers. Because, like, even though it's slow, it's like Schneider has contracts with big box customers, Walmart, Kimberly-Clark, Georgia Pacific, whatever, with these companies, and they have top paying loads all the time. You just got to be in the position to get them. Okay? And like with the load board, their customers where freight, like their customers where they put loads on the load board the day of, and then their customers that put loads on the board 3-4 days out, and their customers that put loads on the board a week out in advance. It just depends. I don't know what goes into, you know, Schneider. I don't know that part, but there are customers that do that, and I know that. But, you know, like, you guys got to get on the load board and try it out for yourself, you know, because there are loads on that board. If you book loads a week in advance all the time, there are loads on that board that you never see, just because you always booking loads for in a week in advance, in a week in advance. You never slow down enough to, like, okay, try getting on the load board and just checking the board and watch these same loads pop up the day of. There are loads that pop up on the board 7 days a week, 24/7, but you never see them because you're busy booking loads a week in advance, you know, running them long loads, you know, 1,000-mile loads and stuff like that. And you never get to see those $500 loads that's going 150 miles. You know, them 500, 600, 700-mile loads that pay very well, $3-4 a mile loads that go 100 to 200 miles. You never get to see them. And I started to realize that I'm getting to a point where I don't book loads a week in advance. I don't do that anymore, because the best paying loads are loads that are put on the board the day of. There's like a gap, you know. Like, they're the loads that are booked a week in advance, and then there are loads that are booked the day of. And there are areas like that. And, like, I talk to guys who do that. Like, they'll go to an area and sit there and watch the board. And they're a select handful of customers, 3 or 4 of them in certain areas, where you can go and just sit there and book loads the day of. And what happens is, like, I've talked to these guys, like, now if they don't put no loads on the board, he just go home, you know. And there are loads like that, because, see, guys think it's all about revenue. Well, if you book a load that pays $400 to go 100 miles, that's $300 in profit. You make the same profit by running, let's see, like, say if you run a, say you got a, let's say you got a 600-mile load. You gonna burn about $100 in fuel to run that 600-mile load. Okay? And then you got your daily expenses to run the truck. That same, you running all the miles for that 600-mile load, you can run a 400-mile load going 100 miles paying $3.50 a mile and profit the same amount of money. You understand? So like, you gotta understand like the dynamics of profit. And when you running a business, it's not all about running the truck all the time, you know, and a whole bunch of revenue. Because there are times where I'm looking at my spreadsheets and my settlements. There are times where I'm running less miles, grossing less revenue, and I'm profiting more money because I didn't burn any fuel. And, well, I did burn some fuel, but I didn't burn as much fuel as the load that I ran, like $5,000 in revenue, $4,500 in revenue, where my expenses were $2,300. You know what I mean? Like, if you manage and keep a good balance of moving the truck versus profit, you could take home more, or take home just as much money without all the work. So it's like, that's how I come to the point where I only work I try to push for 5 days a week, where I find these select few loads that profit a whole lot on that load. That way I can go home for the weekend, instead of like running the wheels off the truck, burning all this fuel, and then chasing revenue. And that's not how you do it. But yeah, so it's just like, that's my conversation. This is what this video is about. Being able to balance a slow season with profit, and select fewer loads. Like last week, I booked 2 loads that paid $500 to go 150 miles. One of the $500 loads I sat 4 hours for. I didn't get any detention, but it takes 6 hours to get some detention at Schneider. But I didn't mind sitting for it because the load paid $3 and some change, you know, $3.10, I don't know, I think it's like $3.20 or something like that a mile. And I was willing to do it because even if I sat all day, to move the truck 150 miles, I profit so much money, because it cost me about $200 a day for the truck, and then I only burn the truck gets about 7 miles to the gallons of 7. I probably burnt like $30 in fuel. You know what I mean? So the profit there on that one load is huge, and that's what you want to focus on. Profit per load. Each load you want to profit. So, because a lot of the loads on the load board, you will see them, right? There are loads on there. There'll be the load to pay $1,800, right? To go, the load to pay, just say the load pay $1,000 to go 800 miles. That's only like $1.10 a mile, $1.15 a mile. You're gonna burn 800 miles of fuel to make that $1,000. So for 800, you're gonna spend about $250 on fuel, okay? And then that's a day and a half to run to make that $1,000. Now, if you crunch the numbers, that doesn't make sense versus doing it the other way that I said, because the time management and all of that, you running into an area that you don't know, you in the truck, you sleeping in the truck, when I can run a few loads that profit more and be home. Now, you're not able to get these loads all the time, but if you study the board, you greater your chances of positioning yourself to get those loads. Because I do it all the time. There's sometimes on Monday, I don't have no loads booked. I just come into the truck on Monday, and I know, okay, I need to get to the truck by, I say I need to get to the truck by 10, 9 o'clock, about 9, 10, 11 o'clock, because I know they start putting loads on the load board about that time, and start looking at the load board. So, and I know the day of, that freight that comes out on the day of, it's pretty decent freight. It pays pretty well, going in areas that I like to run. So, it's nothing wrong with waiting it out to the day of to run some loads. You just got to know the areas to run in. Now, there's certain areas you can't do that. You got to know what the hell you're doing, because then you're going to run into a dead area, and then you'll be sitting there for 2-3 days, you know, and it ain't no freight, you know, because all the loads that come out of that area already booked a week out, and there's certain areas that are just not popping like that. So you got to find the areas that's popping, where either you can book loads 3 or 4 days out, or you can book loads the day of. So this video is 16-17 minutes long. I'm sorry, I be trying to make them short, but you know how I do. I run my mouth. But hey, man, I appreciate y'all watching my videos, man. I was trying to make a Christmas video, but I was busy, man. I was busy. I was trying to, you know, get in the logistics of getting my loads down, and it was just a lot of complications and stuff. I just didn't have no time to make videos. But hey, man, I'll see y'all next time, man. I appreciate y'all watching my videos.